I'm Lieutenant General Philip Campose, retired, and I will be speaking on the challenges of military modernization on the squirrels.in. The first challenge is having adequate defense budget to make sure that we can meet our defense modernization needs. And the challenge here is that right from the time of our independence, we've always, when it came to allocating money for defense, it was the guns versus butter debate. And the butter always won. And so you had the requirements of the defense being postponed year on year. And as a result of which, the military always felt that it was not as strong as it should be to meet our challenges as far as our potential adversaries are concerned. We have fought a number of wars, and there are lessons from these wars which have told us that unless you modernize, unless you keep your defense preparedness at a certain high level, you tend to pay for it by adverse circumstances which happen at the end of these conflicts. But essentially, one part of the budget looks after your administrative needs, salaries, pensions, food, rations, fuel, clothing, and this is what you need to sustain the force. And the second part, whatever is required, is for buying new equipment as part of modernization of the force. So what tends to happen when you fall short in the revenue side, you finally end up taking it from the capital budget. And so year on year there is a problem when it comes to meeting your modernization needs. Number three problem is that we do not have a system of a defense modernization fund based on a sort of non-collapsible roll-on fund, that if there is some capital amount which is not spent in the year, then it will go into this fund. Presently, the processes and systems don't allow for this. And I don't think we have really made a serious effort at implementing such a plan. And I'm sure that if such a plan were to be implemented, then you would be able to address your modernization needs in a more effective manner. At times, the Ministry of Finance is seen to be at cross purposes with the Ministry of Defense. The Ministry of Defense knows what it's required. The Ministry of Finance is looking at the larger picture of how the national budget has to be spent and what are the priorities of the government. So we come back to the guns versus butter debate. When there are developmental needs related to poverty alleviation, human development, then there is a tendency for the finance ministry to look at those priorities. And to that extent, when such a situation sort of develops, then it is always at the cost of the defense ministry's requirements. So the finance ministry should also have a stake in the defense modernization, and its own aims and objectives should be aligned to those of the defense ministry. Only then we will be able to meet these modernization requirements. And the next point is that these defense procurement projects or proposals, these must be conducted in a transparent and suspicion-free environment. What tends to happen, what we have seen historically, is that if there is a taint in any procurement process, then there is a tendency for the entire system to sort of freeze, to clamp down, and then procurement suffers. Indigenization is the need of the hour for many reasons. For our national aspirations, for our economic reasons, and more importantly, we have to be self-sufficient in the context that wars of the future may not be short and swift. They may drag on. They may continue for a very long time, which means the military should have resources within its within the country in terms of material, in terms of manufacturing capabilities to provide the military what it needs. And unless we have such a capability, we will never be able to meet our military needs. And if you look at the larger picture, we will never be able to meet our national aspirations as a country which wants to be a regional or a global power of the future. When you look at what happened after independence, we inherited disputes with two of our neighbors, Pakistan and China, which we are all aware of. With Pakistan, it related to Kashmir, and with China, it related to the borders with Tibet, which became the borders with China once China took over Tibet. Now, so right from the independence, we've had these problems, and we have fought a number of wars with both these countries. And these issues have not been resolved. They have tended to drag on. And the most recent manifestation, as far as the Chinese conflict is concerned, are the intrusions of 2020, which tells you that the dangers are always lurking. And as far as Pakistan are concerned, it reflects in terror attacks and infiltration by terror groups every once in a while. On the other hand, there was a sense during this century, the 21st century, after the first decade, where the experiences of the Iraq war and the Lebanon war sort of discouraged people from indulging in full-fledged wars. So there was a sense in the second decade of this century that wars were a thing of the past and they were not likely to take place in the future. But in this third decade, starting 2020, where we've had the intrusions and the Galwan incident of June 2020, followed by in 2022, we've had the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And then in October 2023, we've had the commencement of the Israel-Palestine war. So, and all these conflicts, all these situations have continued to drag on. So, there is a sense today that not only are wars possible, but they can happen at very short notice. And when they do happen, they're not likely to be short and swift. They're likely to drag on, which means you'll need much more resources to take on such a situation. So wars are possible with either of our adversaries because you don't know when somebody will start something and how it escalates thereafter into whether it's a limited war or something which is much more than that.